Where does Shintoism come from or originate?
It's unclear, actually. I think sort of the leading thought is that it's the indigenous religion of Japan. And it predates when there was written language, so it's kind of hard to tell.
And what is the core belief of Shintoism?
Interesting. Shintoism doesn't, it's weird, it's not like other religions. Originally, it doesn't have like any particular dogma, and it doesn't have any particular code of conduct. It's a lot about sort of fertility, nature, cleanliness and defilement, and it's sort of like very ritual based.
Would you say it's more of a personal, I guess?
It's
like
actually
interpretation?
really cultural. It's really funny because Japanese people don't always recognize that what they do is Shinto.
Oh, okay.
For example, like if you're studying for entrance exams for college, you'll go to a shrine and you'll pray at a shrine and you might buy an amulet for good luck, but people would say, well, that's not religion, no.
So it's more of like a tradition or a cultural thing than it's seen as a religion. So
yeah,
it's not seen as
it's like you go, in Japan they often say, that people say like, born Shinto, married Christian, died Buddhist. They use like multiple religious beliefs for different events and different situations.
So is it still practiced in modern times?
Absolutely. Well, it's weird. I was actually this morning just reading an article. There was like all the practices that came from sort of back in history, and then in the 19th century, they're developed, and 20th century, they're developed something called state Shinto, which was more an ideology than religion, and that led to a lot of nationalism. So it's kind of weird. Sometimes it gets co-opted for political purposes. Mm-hmm. And because it's so sort of loosely defined, it's really hard to draw the line between like it's hard to say it's real, but like what's cultural traditional practice and what's being used to support nationalism.
In your opinion, what's the most pure form of Shintoism of the three?
I mean, I think some of the rituals go really, really far back. Like the emperor performs some of the ceremonies, and like when the rice shoots are going to be planted in the spring, the emperor goes to, it's got to be Ise Shrine, which is the shrine of the sun goddess, who's considered to be the originator of the imperial line. And like he performs all these secret rites and ceremonies and prays for a good harvest. And then there's sort of like the ritual planting of the rice.
And what are the main differences between Buddhism and Shintoism?
Oh, okay.
That led to them, I guess, wanting to oust Buddhism.
Well, so Shinto is sort of the native practices, but they don't, like, there's no sort of theory of an afterlife, and there's no code of conduct. And Buddhism addresses both of those things, so they were a good fit for each other. So even now, they mostly coexist. What happened is from like around 1600 to 1868, the entire country was under the rule of the Tokugawa shogunate. And before that was 9 states period. I'm gonna say a good like 100 years of like civil war and just chaos. And then in 1600, the country got unified, and then they made a class system, and they made a ton of rules because they were like, we're gonna keep everything peaceful and stable, and we're in control. And as time wore on, and the government, the same government for 200 years, and it started to sort of lose. It wasn't keeping up with what was happening in society. So they tried to, they tried to make state Shinto like the only thing you were supposed to follow. So it was kind of a way to get people to follow. Mm-hmm. It's the same, like Christianity got introduced to Japan in, again, late 1500s. And for a while it was accepted, and then it was banned because the authorities were concerned that people would be loyal to Christianity and not be loyal to the government.
What is the significance of the shrines?
The shrines are cool because a lot of times they just demarcate a place where either there's like a cool natural phenomenon, but sometimes people can also be enshrined. I don't know how much you know about the whole concept of the kami.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about that.
Okay, so the kami are like the 8 million god spirits, and they're gods, but it's like definitely small g god, not like omniscient god who controls everything. It's just like something that's got some extra power or spirit. It could be a big tree, it could be a rock formation, it could be a cool place in the forest, it could be the grave of somebody who had been a powerful person, and they get kind of transformed into a kami. And there's a really good book called, oh my gosh, what is it? George Tanabe is the author. It's called Practically Religious. And it's about how kind of transactional, like particularly shrine visits can be. Like you need something, you go to the shrine, you pray for that particular thing, and you'll maybe find out what shrine is like the best shrine for that. And in my experience, it was like never the one that was down the street. It was always like 2 hours away, and you had to like make a day of it.
So Shintoism has affected you personally?
Yeah. When I lived in Japan, I was married to a guy from Japan, and for example, the day you get married, I think it kind of is Shinto. There's a belief in auspicious and inauspicious days in the calendar. And so you can't get married on an inauspicious day. You can't move into your new apartment on a day so I remember having to put off a move-in date because my mother-in-law was like, no, you have to wait till it's the best luck day to move in. And then you go to shrines and you get amulets for your new house that should bring good luck, and so yeah.
What are the most important Shinto figures?
Amaterasu. Amaterasu is the sun goddess. So, do you know the origin story or the mythology of Japan? So, it's kind of weird. It comes from a book called the Kojiki, which was written in, I'm just teaching this semester, which is why I have my dates, written in 712. And it's basically like a takeoff of Chinese historical chronicles, because Japan was trying to make an appeal to China that it was a sovereign nation and not a tributary. So the creation story is like the divine beings got together and then they told these two other people it's like by committee. So it's like creation by committee, and there was already some murkiness that existed. And so there's Izanami and Izanagi, which were the two beings who were sent down. They were like, go make something. And they thrust a spear into the ocean, and then the drops of salt that fell off the tips of the spear formed the islands of Japan. So Shinto is about, and that's all the creation of Japan, and Shinto is sort of only about Japan. And the kami protect Japan.
What's the process of praying at a shrine?
So you go to the shrine, there's water. You're supposed to rinse your mouth, rinse your hands, because purification is a very big deal. Purification and defilement are sort of the basic points of Shintoism. Then you go up to sort of the main shrine. There's usually a big rope and a bell, and then there's a place where you can throw coins or bills for offerings, and you kind of shake the bell, clap your hands twice, pray for whatever you want. I think you clap your hands again,